Hello and welcome. We're back at the Creative Economy Forum, Season 3. In fact, I've been associated with them for their previous editions, so it's great to be back at CEF, and this time, of course, bigger and grander, and of course, more creative, I hope, as well. The theme is very interesting, how to build a more creative Bharat. The creative medium, well, that is what cinema is believed to be. So from Sea of Creative, our next session focuses on Sea of Cinema. And as they say, the magic of cinema is best enjoyed on the big screen. How is the big screen adapting to changing trends? What is the future of the big screen looking like? That's something that we're going to delve on with our panel. They're both, of course, experts in this field, so great to have both of you. Let me begin by asking you an overarching question, Akkshay, first to you, on what you believe the future of screen is, and how do we better economic growth for the cinema theatre industry?
Sure. Thanks so much, Uday. First things first, you called both of us experts in this field. Trust me, all of us are still learning, and nobody knows what's going to happen every Friday and which way the fortunes are going to turn. But that apart today, having been into this business for almost about 18, 19 years now, and happen to be fortunate to come from a family that's been into this business for the last 8 decades now. So right since the early days, even since, before joining the business, I've been witnessing the trajectory of theatrical exhibition in a certain sense. And the kind of changes that have happened in the last decade and a half, I think have been way quicker than what's happened for almost a good 70, 80 years before that, right? Where the advent of digitization came into play in a very big way. The consumption patterns changed. The streaming platforms came in, and their growth was expedited exponentially during the 2 years of the lockdown, where people didn't have the option of going out for any outdoor recreational activity. So things are evolving very dynamically, and during the pandemic, I'm sure, including on news channels, all of us were on these panel discussions talking about whether the people are going to go back to theaters all over again at all. And soon after the lockdowns came to an end, we had 4 movies in the very next year that came along, 2023, where it opened up with Pathan, which was the first ever movie in the history of Indian cinema to do a 500 crores plus box office domestically. Then came Jawan, then came Animal, and then came Gadar. All 4 of which did the kind of business that we never in Indian cinema history witnessed at the box office in Hindi. So clearly people were willing to come back to the cinemas in a big way, but the movies that they'd come for, they'd become a lot more selective about. So it's a trajectory because things happen in a very, in a very strange manner where nobody anticipated a pandemic to come along and for consumption patterns to change as soon as we emerged from it. But yes, I think the future of cinema halls now is completely linked to the future of the content creation industry, which is adapting to the new normal, which is the kind of content that people are more excited to turn up at the cinemas for, versus the kind of content that they prefer to sit and watch at home. That clarity, I think, has been more pronounced than ever before. And now you see a lot, the big movies getting bigger. So the size, the scale, the spectacle value, elements like 3D, 4DX, IMAX, all of these will really drive the growth of theatrical exhibition in a comprehensive manner.
Okay. Let me take that straight across to you, Deepak, before we will go into the trends and, of course, post-COVID new normal as has emerged that Akkshay was just mentioning in a second. But Deepak, again, that question to you on what you believe the future of screens is looking like as of now, and how do we encourage business growth for this industry?
So Uday, I come from the real estate side of business. So for us, cinema is what drives people in. End of the day, if you are developing commercial real estate, you need people to come. Without them, there's no transaction. Why to make malls? Why commercial centers will survive? So survival is dependent on cinema. And nowadays, I have a saying that as you need good quality washrooms, you need good quality cinema, so that people, when they come, they can experience. And cinema has to also, especially theaters, have to think beyond cinema. That's what we are doing as a group. We bring in cinema, live performances, live comedy, a lot of things that usually a mall was doing any which ways beyond cinemas, but now it's more convergence because we are an entertainment platform. People want to come out to get entertained. It's so funny, I always take this example. We have done election counting in cinemas. People come for that. Because it's an experience.
Absolutely. Election counting, your cricket matches,
Cricket
all
matches,
of that.
yes. So World Cup, we were house full. I wish government allows us to serve beyond, food. And if liquor is allowed, I am hoping Haryana does that, then at least, you will see much more people coming out. People want to hang out. BYOBs, if you know, in Haryana, they do more business than, anything you can ever dream of. I personally think that, again, India is a very big country. Not all regions behave the same. But North India primarily has to move beyond content because Bollywood is not clicking. We have no control as real estate players on the content. So we have to think beyond content, bring people in. When people come, commerce happens.
You need people to come. You need commerce as well. But I was going to go into trends, but because we had a session on law just before this, so I'm going to get the question of law as my next question to both of you. I'm sure you must have seen and heard what happened in the Supreme Court just a few days ago when the Karnataka matter came up. For those who don't know, the Karnataka government has imposed a price on tickets, a cap on ticket prices. So they've said ticket prices cannot be beyond an X amount. I think it's 200 rupees they've capped it at. So obviously the theatre associations have challenged that, and the matter now is pending before the Supreme Court. While the hearing was on, one of the judges who was hearing this said, look at the exorbitant prices of the food that is being served. There's going to be a day when cinema halls will be empty because you're making it unaffordable. What is your reaction to that, firstly, Deepak? Are cinemas indeed making this the movie-going experience unaffordable?
So
or are they just being practical to survive?
No, so I'll tell you, if you talk of the big name, I'm again not going to take name, but we all know. That brand, people like to go there because you and me will like to go there. But yes, we all hate the pricing. I have heard billionaires talking about the soda and popcorn prices. So they are unfortunately in a business where people are coming, but they don't like it. That's not sustainable. I always believe in sustainable business practices. So as a chain, we were the first in India to offer free popcorn. We said, if you are coming to cinema, popcorn is your haq. It's like Sarda haq. And again, popcorn, if you give them like a small popcorn, they're not going to ask for more popcorn. They're going to eat something else. That actually drives more business. And by having sensible pricing, today 40% of my collection is food. People are happy. They are not cribbing about prices. And I'm already in line with what government wants to do. But at the same point in time, yes, because of real estate related costs, it's not easy for everyone to do. That's the reason our approach is more from the real estate side. As an operator, it's going to be much, much more difficult if these kind of regulations are coming in. But for the real estate player, there is an opportunity to collaborate with cinema operators and create a platform where it will be win-win. But again, as I say, not everything can apply to everybody,
okay.
But some innovative models have to come, and it will.
Okay, and that's what you've tried to do with your brand of cinema. Akshay, your take on the food prices debates in cinema halls, because it's a debate which has been on for a very long time, and now actually there is competition also with OTT in people's homes. There is a big competition to going out to the cinemas.
Sure. So I'll first dwell further on what Deepak said, right? Where and I'll be a little less diplomatic and say, PVR, Inox, Cinepolis are chains that are a part of the ecosystem, but that's not the entire exhibition sector, right? Out of the 9,300 screens that exist in the country, they contribute somewhere to the tune of a 2,000, 2,500. There's a much longer long tail of the exhibition sector, where there's standalone screens, there are chains like them, there's Movie Time, Mirage, Mukta, Movie Max, so many others, where the pricing of the tickets as well as the pricing of the food and beverages is significantly lower. The only thing that's come into play is you hear this chatter about food and beverages and ticket prices being exorbitant on the social media and all of that, because the companies that are in the organized segment of the sector, which is PVR, Inox, and Cinepolis, are, so to say, the de facto spokespersons of the sector. So as a news channel today, if you want an exhibition sector entity to speak to you, it's honestly and logistically easier for you to reach out to the communications department of a PVR versus reaching out to a standalone exhibitor like me. And therefore, what they speak about is the reality of their lives. And somewhere I don't even dispute that for the simple reason in a city like Delhi, right? You have, if you want to have a great dal makhani and naan, you have the ability to go to a Bukhara, but then you can also go to a Kakeda dhaba and have an equally nice dal makhani for a fraction of a cost of that. And that's exactly how even the exhibition sector works, where in a country like India, where there is a value market and a volume market, you have a Golsha, Regal, Smriti in Nagpur, a Raj Cinema in Raipur, a Rupani in Purnia, a Novelty in Lucknow. And in the same cities, you also have a PVR, you also have an Inox, you also have a director's cut. Yeah. And let me actually bring your attention to something over there. For the big ticket movies, whenever an Avatar or an Avengers or a Bahubali comes along, the first screens that actually are sold out are those director's cut screens. Yes. So we need to realize that it is an important part of the sector where the ticket prices and the F&B prices are what they are, but that's not the entire sector.
Yeah. Do you believe then that this model of luxury cinemas is here to stay, Akkshay? We've seen another director's cut, I think, open up in Noida recently. Luxury cinemas are here to stay, despite this debate on affordability that often happens?
I think it's about coexistence there, where the luxury cinema experience is here to stay, but along with that, what we really need, and what I believe will be the growth driver of this sector, will be a super budget format of cinemas, and the growth of it will be driven by Tier 2 and Tier 3 India. Because the metros in India, they would be able to speak about it best. I think it's a fairly saturated market now. We don't need 20 more screens in Gurgaon or in Delhi. We need them to come into places where, one, the people have disposable income level at a reasonable level, because the cost of living in Tier 2 India is lower. They actually end up saving a little more money to be able to spend on recreation. And there are fewer avenues of recreation that exist in Tier 2 India, Tier 3 India. So it has to be the whole ecosystem that has to work together, where we need our content creators to make more movies that are relevant to Bharat than to India. And then we need this reasonably good quality of exhibition infrastructure, which is priced very reasonably for those Tier 2, Tier 3
Exactly,
towns.
because if they're making movies for Bharat, if there are no screens in Bharat, then what's the point? Deepak, do you believe that's the real, place where there is scope for more growth? That's really could be the growth driver, as the panel topic and theme also is, what are the growth opportunities for cinema business growth? Do you believe that's the places where the growth is going to come from? Because if you look at India's screen count compared to markets abroad, we're grossly under-screened for our capital and population size.
So again, I'm a new age exhibitor like him. I see it more as a customer first, and I'll tell you, this is a very simple business. First of all, when people say cinema is an industry, I ponder. Because the whole size of the business is 12,000 crores. My friends have businesses that do more than that, and that's the size of the whole business. But let me bring something else to you. See what size of OTT market is there. What's the size of Instagram short videos, or for that matter, even YouTube size is there. People, see, it's all about entertainment. Cinema is just one form of entertainment. Form of entertainment is changing. Think of theaters as real estate. This is how we approach this. Once we did like a live telecast of a South Korean band in Delhi, people came. It was a live telecast from South Korea. People came just to see that. They can see that on their phone also, right? But the whole experience will not be the same. So you have to be a little innovative. One. Second, of course, one theory will not work for everybody. I always say there is a place for 5-star hotels, there is a place for Oyo, right? No one is stopping you from going to a Oyo if that's what you want to do. But at the same time, when it comes to cinema exhibition, PVR, Inox, because he has taken the name, I'm also taking openly the name, they have invested a lot of money where they are today. They have to make money, they have shareholder responsibilities. So if they will also have the same business model like me, it's not easy for them to do that, While they will copy one by one whatever is working, because we all are trying to learn from each other, right? Again, this industry is very democratic. What he can do, even I can do. It's all about, will that work for me? Will that work for me in my neighborhood? So as I can say that, whatever government is trying to do in Karnataka may work in Karnataka, because the conversion rates of cinema in Karnataka is insane. But at the same time, even if I can say free movie in my theater, will I get enough people? I'm telling you it's not. People invest money when they have to get enough back. Content will be very important.
Content should always be king,
Yes.
and that is turning out to be now more than ever before. But now coming back to post-COVID, once again what we were talking about at the start of the panel. Earlier, the debate used to be between big screen and small screen. Now the debate is between big screen and OTT, Akkshay. Can the two coexist? Will one eat into the other? Is one already eating into the other? And how do we change the model to ensure both survive?
So while that always was...
And may not just survive, but thrive too.
So that always was the discussion about whether the OTT platforms are going to come and take consumers away from cinemas. But what seems to be emerging more than a contradictory or a cannibalizing situation is actually a thing where they seem to be complementing each other reasonably well. Where, enough and more examples of movies that have come out where the consumption has actually been beyond what was expected or what used to be the case before the pandemic. So two different kind of content formats that are coming into play, which really are about whether consumption will happen. So the big screen spectacles, like I said, the immersive viewing experiences, and something that's unique to India, which is the collective viewing experience, right? Where, a lot of people actually have a blast when Salman Khan's shirt comes off and there are 800 people who erupt together in celebration. Now, sitting at home when you watch that on your TV, you would find it to be the most ridiculous thing that can happen on screen. So it's actually that collective viewing ambience that's very unique to India, and that drives theatrical consumption in a big way. But having said that, the other interesting thing, if you actually look at the commerce with a microscope, a lot of movies that are made, which in the pandemic were being released directly on the digital platforms, is not happening anymore. Because what they realized is that, okay, by buying it at a certain cost, we don't really know how much of an impact it will have on our subscriptions. Now, theatrical exhibition in the box office has actually become the most efficient price-finding mechanism for streaming platforms to buy it at the right cost. So the price that a streaming platform like a Netflix or an Amazon or a JioStar pays for a movie is actually linked to its performance at the box office. And that's why most streaming platforms, at least for movies, are insisting to producers that, hey, go to the box office. We'll buy your movie. This is a minimal base price, but basis your performance at the box office, we'll give you those additional incentives and increments in the price. So the two seem to be complementing each other. And again, laid bare there, I can't think of an example of a movie that did horribly at the theaters and then broke out on streaming, or vice versa, a movie that did incredibly well in theaters and didn't do anything on streaming. So ultimately, it's good content that works across the mediums, and bad content, however cheap you may price at the cinemas, or you may release it, directly and make it available free of cost in people's homes, they still won't consume.
Do you agree, Deepak, or do you believe that the OTT, is now harming your industry, is harming cinemas, or do you believe the two are coexisting perfect?
So Uday, what I'll say is whenever anything new comes, this is the first discussion people do. When TV came, people started to say that, cinemas are done.
There was a small screen debate.
When e-commerce started, people said malls will go down. But what happens is with time, they all coexist. And today, in the last few years, I can say, if you remember a movie called Ek Hi Banda Kafi Hai, that released on Zee OTT first. My theater, we did a special screening with Manoj Bajpayee ji. And the kind of crowd that was present and the whole experience was, I can say, 10 times better, because actually I saw on OTT, and then I was attending that screening with Bajpayee ji sitting with me, and I was really feeling the movie. That didn't happen when it was on the OTT. So what I will always say is, try to remember 5 movies you have seen in cinemas. You will remember with whom you have seen. You actually make memories. OTT, we consume like we are sitting, doing nothing, we are consuming it. It's just instant entertainment, but it doesn't add to the experience. So personally, what I see is next a year down the line, people will start to accept that, there is a space for OTT and there is space for cinema. But when you want to go and create that experience, and especially for movie makers, if they have to make money, they need large theatrical releases first. Otherwise, no one will value them on OTT. And that's happening. But at the same time, there's a certain kind of content, they never deserve a screen, a big screen release. So they have to coexist. We'll know with time, but the whole world, if you see, and I don't know if you have followed that, but a lot of, especially Netflix used to produce movies on their own. Now they are releasing them in theaters because they have to bring that experience. And also for the Oscars and other nominations, they need that kind of release happening. So that's my take.
If I may actually, for the fun of it, conduct a bit of a tiny 10-second experiment on what you said. Uday, do you remember the first movie you saw in a cinema hall? And that must have been years ago, but do you remember the first movie that you saw in a cinema?
Years ago, when I was young, I remember seeing Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi and Krishna and many. I mean, maybe Hum Saath Saath Hain as well.
For me, So for me, again, being largely the same age group, I distinctly remember Hum Aapke Ek Kaun was the first movie-going experience I had in cinemas. Deepak, do you remember your first?
Yes. I remember a Hollywood movie. It was Jurassic Park. And it was because it was an English movie. My dad thought English movies are bad, right? He sent one actually bodyguard with me just to see what kind of movie I'm watching.
Now, let me actually flip this, okay? Do you remember the first movie you saw on streaming? That was significantly more recent.
Yeah.
Like Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi was 2 decades ago, and you remember that. I remember Hum Aapke Ek Kaun.
Maybe Class of '83 on Netflix, I think.
And that too a maybe, and you think. Deepak, any memories? Now that, if that speaks something about the impact of the outing that you make with your friends, family, it's not just content. What we're selling you is an experience.
His experiment has worked. His experiment has worked. No offense to any OTT platforms out there. But coming back now to also box office clashes. Now we used to see this much more earlier, but we still see it on big festivals. Box office clashes happen. And there's always a debate, and not just in big festivals and big box office clashes, but even in smaller dates, or even in dates where more than one movie releases. Why is there this distinction in screen count? Is that fair? There may be good movies, but yet they get very less screens. There may be bad movies, but because they have a big star or a big producer, they get more screens. Is that fair? And why does that happen? Deepak?
Bro, that happens everywhere. Modi ji is coming, half of the city will be there. So, again, while as a practice, we can debate whether it's a good practice or the bad practice, but it's commerce. End of the day, a big star has the power to drive. Unfortunately, I always highlight this. This is not an industry yet. It has to become an industry. The size has to be like that. Think of Hollywood. We never hear about these things in Hollywood, right? But at the same time, unless you reach your customers, there will be no commerce. So this tussle will continue unless market matures to the next level. And of course, we need more screens. We don't have screens yet. That's why we are talking about these things. If we had 30,000 screens, no one will talk about this. Everyone will get their share. And again, it's also a regional play. South Indian movies will always get most of the screen count in South. If they have done like a dub, still they will not get as much as if there is a Bollywood star releasing a big one.
Okay. Do you want to also quickly take that? This
Sure.
Screen count debate.
Trust me, Uday, it's the most organically democratic process that happens around how many screens a movie gets. The basic law of economics that we learn in the 10th standard, the law of demand and supply, that's what defines it. We can, squabble on with distributors and producers till the Thursday night before release. But ultimately, what happens in terms of the number of screens and shows is not dictated by us. It's dictated by the audience. The number of people who want to turn up to watch a Thama on Diwali versus the number of people who want to watch a Diwaniyat would ultimately define how many screens and shows each of the two movies got on this Diwali by. So it's purely economics.
And then that changes. That changes also looking at the trajectory a movie takes.
Absolutely.
Also now quickly about the big box office trends that have stood out for you in a 2025. So the year is almost over now. We're reaching the end of November, or rather we are in the first half of November, but we're reaching the end of the year. What are the big box office trends that have stood out for you this year?
So personally, I have not been able to see a lot of movies though, but whatever I'm seeing in terms of numbers end of the month, South Indian movies, especially the dub ones, are finding great audience. We have done some Telugu movies in Telugu here in Gurgaon, houseful. So that means regional movies in regional languages also have the audience available even in like a place like Delhi. So if you do your programming right, and I always say this is the simplest
A
business.
quick follow-up then is, you mean language is now no barrier anymore?
Not at all. Not at all.
We are seeing South movies do well in North, North
Yes,
movies do well in
that
South.
I won't comment, but
Not as
yeah, but not that much because see, I always say it's a quality of content. I saw a Gujarati movie recently, and no, Vash 2 or something. Nice movie. Again, if they will redo it, I don't see a reason why they should redo it because I have seen it. Will I like to see it again? Probably not. So I think dubbing times are good. People are coming out and they do good job now with the quality and the graphics, everything. South Indian movies are far ahead in the game. Bollywood has to catch up. I'm still to see a good Bollywood movie this year, and I look forward to.
Okay. Akshay, a quick take on the language debate, on language now being no barrier. I think that's also a trend after COVID. A lot of people saw multiple languages movies thanks to OTT, and then that translated into screens as well. People coming to screens to watch those films when new language films released, of course, in their theatre, same language film, new films released. But your quick take on the language debate, and then I want you to end with your box office trend as well of this year.
Sure. Well, I think truly, as you pointed out, the pandemic was that was that time where everyone really got exploratory on television, and a lot of North India discovered. So Telugu was something that was already there, courtesy Setmax and Star Gold, where every time TRP is used to dip, they'd play Indra the Tiger or one of those movies, and they'd do well with a certain audience, right? But the pandemic is when a lot of North India discovered Malayalam cinema, discovered a lot of interesting Kannada cinema, right? And those are things that have really exploded and broken out now. I wish Hindi cinema had, made equally deeper inroads in the Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada-speaking states. It's beginning to happen, but it will only happen when we go there and not just release, but also proactively market with a certain consistency.
And it just doesn't happen by casting a South star.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, it's been attempted, right? Where I think one of the most recent successes around that was Shah Rukh Khan's Jawan, where the director actually was a Tamilian. You had the villain, which was Vijay Sethupathi, who was, a Tamil actor. Nayantara, who's the lead actress, is a Tamil star. So that did a lot of business in Tamil Nadu. And that's why, it's not just about random
War
casting.
2 didn't, where again you had a big star from the north and a big star from the
south.
south.
So it's a lot of things, right? The storytelling syntax has to resonate with the audience out there. And India, as they say, doesn't operate like a country. It operates like a continent to which so many different linguistic, cultural, behavioral patterns that are so robustly different from each other. So somewhere I think it's important that we, rather than seeing our market as Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Marathi, we start seeing it as the Indian market. But then we also have to be reasonable about our ambitions, knowing that there are people who behave very differently, like different consumption patterns. And it's not just about languages and regions. It's about the socio-economic diversity that this country offers. And we have to really know what our audience is and reverse engineer the economics and the budgets of our films to reach out and maximize our reach with them. And as long as we can do that.
Let's get your box office trend then.
Well, I think,
this year.
sure. So this year has actually been pretty interesting, where you've had certain movies which were not the biggest in terms of the star cast involved, which have really broken out, right? Like Vicky Kaushal. While he is a star in his own right, and congratulations to him, are in order because he's just become a father. But that apart, I think somebody like him delivering a Chhawa at the box office, which did unprecedented numbers. Somebody like a Rajkumar Rao being a part of Stree 2 and delivering the numbers that you couldn't imagine, I think was phenomenal. And then you've had, a couple of outings with the biggest of our stars, like Amir Khan, who did Sitare Zameen Par, did well, but not half as well as what you expect out of a movie with a megastar like that. So I think the advent of stardom is still relevant, but it's not still as pronounced anymore. And now, in the truest sense, content is finally being coronated to actually be the king. So that's where we look like we're headed. And here's to more power, and hopefully we'll have more filmmakers, more voices, not just from the traditional media houses that have been at play. There's so many of those who are coming along from nowhere and creating such a big impact. And that can be regional, that can be people who are debutant filmmakers who are making a splash. So it's become more democratic than ever before, the box office. And here's hoping that there are more movies that come and entertain the audiences like they never have.
Perfect. Let's certainly hope for that. As they say, in India, of course, there are two things that sell like nothing else, and that again are the two C's: cricket and cinema. And of course, the third is creativity and Creative Economic Forum. So Creative Economic Forum is trying to bring cinema, of course, on the map, take it to a new level, and wishing the team again of CEF all the very best. And here's wishing the cinema industry all the very best. And of course, thanks to the cinema industry for all the entertainment they provide us. And let's certainly hope that this future looks robust for the screen sector as well. Thank you very much for joining us, both of you.
Thank you, the panelist and the moderator, for such insightful discussion on cinema and creativity.